What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome. Good to have you with us. Ryan Harris here. Let me just make sure I've got all my technology working appropriately. It's good to be with you. For those of you that don't know me, for those of you that are registered for our RiseX Mastermind event for the very first time, our speaker series, my name is Ryan Harris. I'm the CEO and the founder. I just want to check in. I'm doing this all by myself for the first time. Chat in the window. Just throw a quick chat in Zoom if you can hear me okay. Make sure everything's good. Let me know where we're at. It's good to be with you. It's really, really good to be with you. I want to give you a little bit of context about what the RiseX community is all about and what we are here to do. Now, one of the beautiful things about the opportunity to connect and build relationships with people is the true opportunity to build value in those relationships. We as an organization are all about creating impact on people, organizations, and communities. And the RiseX community of people, our VIP members, those people that have been attached to us, they love the experiences that we create on behalf of each and every one of them. And so I'm really excited, humbled, and really excited to have each and every one of you here. Some of you, it's your very first time. If it's your very first time at one of our RiseX speaker series, one of our RiseX events in general, go ahead and chat a number 1 in the chat window. For those of you that have been here with us before, some of our returning VIP members, go ahead and chat number 2. I just want to get a feel for who's here for the very first time. And again, thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Just so you know, over the last 18 months, we've been doing a vast majority of our events virtually. Our RiseX Mastermind events have been all online. We were in person for a long time. We're back now to in person. We've been able to serve so many different people across the country that we decided we want to still have a virtual event where you as a business owner, you as a business leader, a community leader, an employee, a driven individual that's in the pursuit of building stronger businesses and communities, have a place to come together to learn high quality information from incredible speakers. And today is no different, to gain value as a result of being here with us, but more importantly, answering some of those questions that are top of mind. So in today's event specifically, we want you to ask questions. And our speaker today is going to give you a little more context on how he wants you to contribute. But again, it's so good to have you here with us. So good to have you here with us, spending a little bit of time this afternoon over your lunch break. Hopefully you grab lunch and you're sitting back and enjoying this while you're taking your lunch break. Be ready to learn. Make sure you have a notebook out and you're ready to rock and roll. Let me just give you a quick introduction to the world of RiseX. So I'm a huge fan of building communities. I'm a huge fan. I've been part of the networking world now for well over 10 years. I started the BNI chapters in the East Idaho area, working hand in hand with the executive director of BNI out of the Boise Valley area. We are in Idaho, we're located in Idaho. I've been a part of several C-suite, C-level networking opportunities. And my role and responsibility here is the CEO, the visionary of RiseX. Now, I'm a business owner. I own several different businesses, a digital agency, a swag company. I own a direct-to-consumer business. And so this is just one thing that we use as a give back tool to help each and every one of you find more value in connections and build authentic relationships. And the main reason that I love building those authentic relationships, because in my experience of networking, authentic relationships drive transactions more quickly, more effectively, and more impactfully than anything else out in the world of networking. We as a collective society have been isolated over the last few years as a byproduct of a pandemic. And so these opportunities give us a connection point, a place where we collectively can come together to, again, create impact on people, organizations, and communities. Now, let me just lay out a couple of events that are coming up here over the next little bit so you know what to, for those of you that are joining us for the first time, we do have a RiseX C-suite mastermind it'll be in person, so it's here in the region. If you're a C-level executive, we want you to come attend. Even if you're in the region roundabout and you want to come join us, we'll get more details. So you can chat with me through the chat window today, and I can get you some more details on that. we have our next in-person RiseX VIP Mastermind event. It's a powerful 2-hour event where we get a chance again to listen to presentations, but then get into a deep dive assessment and some mentoring and coaching with other peers, peer-to-peer coaching, which has just been fantastic. It's our 3rd year of running these mastermind events, and they've just been so incredibly impactful over the last few years. For those of you, again, that are in our region, on the 21st, we're just going to have a casual get together, get to know each other, lunch event. And then this same event, October 27th, every 4th Wednesday of the month from 12 to 1 o'clock, we will be back with our RiseX speaker series. Now, before we go too much further, I do want to recognize, so for those of you that are with us for the very first time, again, if you're with us for the first time, drop a 1 in the chat window if you haven't already. Also, for those of you that are just joining us, tell us where you're coming from, what part of the world you're joining us from. I do want to take a minute and just recognize one of our new VIP members, the amazing Heidi Blumel. Heidi's a franchise owner of Suntan City. She also owns an art and framing store. And Heidi, if you're with us, I'm not sure if you're joining us today, but we're so grateful to have you. She's part of our VIP membership, gets access to all the different elements that are included in the VIP membership. We'll talk briefly about that after the fact, but our organization is just here to help support, provide value, and drive forward. So here's what the agenda is going to look like today. James is going to take the next little bit and do a presentation, share education. We do have 15 minutes allocated towards the end of the session. James did mention that he would like to have that Q&A session intermingled in with the presentation. So for those of you that are with us, if you don't want to audibly ask the question, you're welcome to chat those in the chat window. And again, James will give us a little bit more context as we move forward. Now, let me introduce our good friend, James. So James is a part of the High Performance Institute. He's worked hand in hand with Brendan Burchard over the last many years to get certified. And he has several certifications. It's one of his certifications, but James Williams is a performance breakthrough coach and a speaker. And you'll love his accent today. He comes from across the pond, if you will, and we're excited to have him share with us. He's passionate about focusing on creating outer world impact through inner world mastery. And as James and I were having this conversation right before we started, he said, it's interesting, right? Because so many people in today's world are all about the hustle. They're about the grind. They're about, I need to just move and move and move and grind and work harder and work harder and work harder. And what he shared with me, which I'm really excited to learn from James, because I've always been of the hustle mentality for a long time, of how do we find that balance where we can increase the success of what we're having, financial success, relationship success, whatever type of success we're looking for, without burning the candle on both ends and without putting ourselves in a place where we just can't do it anymore, right? So his passion for mastering physical, mental, and emotional performance in the pursuit of his own life goals has only been matched by his dedication to supporting his clients' beliefs that anything is possible and available to them. Now, James has been in the coaching world since about 2015, so he's not a rookie to the game. He and his wife both share the passion and the desire for coaching together. And I think that's always important, right? Because when you have one person in the relationship that's driving, I've seen it often in my experience when I've been trying to work on my own personal development. But if those people that are a significant other, our spouse, those people that are important to us are not moving in the same direction, sometimes that can create a little bit of complexity in the relationship. But James and his wife both are high performers, and in this high performance of coaching and mentoring. And I'm just so excited to have James here with us. So without further ado, I'm going to change the transition here for a minute. I'm going to turn the mic over to Mr. James. James, give me just 1 second here. Let me move a few things. I'm going to transition over here to Mr. James. I'm going to stop sharing. All right, Mr. James, can you hear me, my friend?
I can hear you. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to turn the time over to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. So thank you so much for that introduction, Brian. And just listening to everything you're saying about what you guys are doing here, it's so important. And I'm very excited that you're going to be in person again, because you're right. The world has got very, very virtual over the last couple of years, and not that that's a bad thing, but I think it's very important that we understand the importance of human connection, and I think that'll always be important. One of the things my wife and I have been doing over the last few years is helping new business owners as well as existing business leaders. And I'm of the mindset that if the internet was to disappear tomorrow, I still want to be able to survive. I still want to be able to build relationships. And so that's such an important skill. Anyway, let me give you some context as to how I'm going to be providing some value for you all today. I'm going to be sharing my screen. As Ryan says, I'm from over the pond. So from the UK, I've been here in the States for a couple of years now. My lovely wife is from Columbus, Ohio. So we've spent some time in the UK, some time here in America. And so I'm very, very blessed to be over here now. We've just moved to Austin. So what I thought would be a good thing to talk to you all about today, something that's very, very dear to my heart, is something that I guess you could say my wife was my first client in a lot of ways, because when I first met her, she was this, and still is, a very, very driven, ambitious, relentless woman who refused that things weren't possible. But like a lot of very driven business owners or visionaries or entrepreneurs, they think about the future more than anything. They're thinking about, what can I do next? What's the strategy? Work harder, work harder. And she, like a lot of people in the world, weren't focusing on herself. She wasn't focusing on her health as much. She wasn't focusing on the engine that actually drives the business. And that's really one of the things, as well as some other stories in my life, which we won't go into right now, that drove me to want to get into performance coaching, because I've met so many people that have the passion and the drive and the dedication and the willingness and the attitude to be very, very successful, not only in business, but in life. But they burn out. They burn out, or what happens is they end up with a lot of money in the bank, but divorced with kids that don't speak to them. And eventually then they burn out anyway. And having done a lot of research, I realize now that there's this core belief that a lot of people have, that is that you can't have both. That surely you can't be in a loving, fun, relaxed relationship where you can take weekends off and you can have time to exercise and eat well and practice personal development and have a successful business. Surely that's not possible. Well, I'm here to tell you that not only is it possible, but it's actually essential. That if you actually look at the most successful people on the planet, and I'm not just talking about financial success, I'm talking about people with lives that you admire, people that have great relationships, that travel, that do the things they want to live, and are very energized every day when they're attaching to their purpose, their work. So how is that possible? And that's ultimately what drove me to Brendan and the High Performance Institute, to try and find out how that's possible. And unlike a lot of books or trainings or coaching, the High Performance Institute actually went to the effort of doing a 4-year research study, 175 countries around the world, to actually see if the theories around performance were accurate or whether they were just theories. And it was proven. And I was actually in the room with Brendan when he came in with the paperwork to prove that these theories are accurate. So what I'm sharing with you today, this is just a tiny piece of information of the whole bag of information around performance. What I'm sharing with you today is not a theory. It's all practice. It's all research. Okay. So what I want you to think about first off is the idea of the business of you. A lot of people here, you may have your own businesses, you may run businesses, you may work in big businesses. So you understand the concept of your business, that your business has SOPs. It has, profit, loss. You understand that you're looking at where profit's being lost, where you're bleeding energy, where you're bleeding profit. You understand that the SOPs are there to make systems easier and more predictable. And that if there's an audit that ever happens, someone comes in and we see where things aren't efficient and what we can do to tighten down the ship to make it more profitable and more efficient and effective, right? Well, it's the same with the business of you. And the truth is that no matter how good your marketing strategies, your sales strategies, or any of the strategies you've got in your business, the effort that you apply to those strategies needs to be quality effort. And the quality of that effort into those strategies is only as high quality as what you have to give. So if you look at the business of you, we're going to look at your SOPs, right? Which you could describe as habitual behaviors. We're going to look at your profit and loss, which could be described as where are you bleeding energy? So if you think about your thoughts and your actions, and you think about the ROI for those thoughts and actions, wouldn't it be interesting if you could write down and log every day how many of your thoughts and how many of your actions are actually giving you ROI on the energy that you're outputting? So I can tell you right now, it wouldn't necessarily be a lot, especially this thing up here, right? So what I wanted to share with you is how to understand those inner roles for optimal performance. If you can imagine the inner roles of the business of you, like the roles within your business, right? So you have that tree describing all the rows going all the way down. It's the same within you. And if you master the business of you, your momentum and predictability of quality output into your business, into those sales meetings or those sales conversations, or client conversations, or even just writing an email, the output is going to be higher quality, which means you're doing high quality work in less time with less mistakes, ultimately making more money. You're less stressed. You can be a better husband, better wife, better father, better son, better daughter, and ultimately live a life that's a little bit more predictable with more momentum. I'd love to hear in the chat box who thinks that sounds like a nice thing. Who here would like to have more momentum and more energy and just feel like you're making more money, being more successful, having a better life, and all of this with less effort that you're currently putting in right now? Does that sound good? Because if it doesn't, then that's fine. I'll go. It's not a problem. Fantastic. That's good. I'm so glad you said yes. Fantastic. Okay. So let's dive in here. So putting others first is selfish. What do we think about that statement? Who here understands what I mean by that? Putting others first is selfish. Who grew up being told to put other people first? Put other people first. Make sure you're thinking of those people first, James, right? Put those people first. Be selfless. Be selfless. Put them first. Think about that word, selfless. Now, this is a really interesting conversation when I'm talking to mothers that are business owners, right? Especially mothers that have young children or babies that, are very, very dedicated to those kids. And I'm saying to them, you realize that if you're putting yourself first, if you're putting your kids, first, and you've only got 60% to give, your kids are only getting 60% and they deserve 100%. So putting them first is selfish. Instead, if you can figure out a way of filling up the tank so that your kids and your partners and your business get you at a higher percentage more often, then not only are you going to be feeling better and more energized about what you're doing, but they're going to be getting more of you, and they deserve that. Your family deserves you at your best. So self-sacrificing because you think that that's what you should do is selfish. And your kids, your family, and your work, they deserve better. Okay. So this is what I'm framing this with. Oops. Okay. Sorry, I've just changed the presentation there. Give me 2 seconds. I'm on a laptop right now, so I don't have a lot of screen time. Let me just click this button here. There we go. Okay, so quality effort requires these things. Now, these 5 things are the core values of high performance. Clarity. So who am I at my best? What do I want? And what am I doing to start to attain that? Energy. How much energy do I have? How predictable is my energy? What am I doing to maintain a high level of predictable energy? Productivity, so courage. Are there any conversations that I need to be having that I'm kind of shying away from having? Are there any boundaries that need to be setting? Am I actually aiming for goals that are big enough, or am I staying comfortable right now because it's easy? Because, there's a pandemic and I need to play it safe. Productivity. Think about that word productivity to means to produce. am I actually effective and efficient with my work, right? Or am I just busy? Have I drunken the Kool-Aid of, if I work more hours, that means I'll be successful? Or am I thinking about doing more with the hours that I'm working so that I'm being more productive and getting higher quality work done in less time? And influence, something that's not talked about enough. Every single one of you needs to understand how to develop influence, because you're not doing this alone. There is someone, whether it be a client or a partner or affiliate, that needs to believe in what you're trying to do as much as you. It's like a sales conversation. So you need to know how to develop influence. These are the major pillars of what it is to be a high performer. And every super successful high performer out there masters these qualities. So quality effort requires all of those things. Clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence consistently come from a high-performing individual who consistently cultivates momentum in order to achieve great results. And think about that word, momentum. This isn't peak performance. This isn't the 80s anymore. It's not go, go, go until I reach burnout and then crash and then spend months trying to get myself back up and then crash. That in itself is really inefficient. Momentum is about this, okay? It's about small enough dips that we can recover from quickly and maintaining a level of energy. So high performance doesn't mean that I'm like an Energizer bunny going crazy all the time. It means I'm effective and efficient with my energy input and output so that I can consistently produce high quality results and not burn out and not give too much energy to something that doesn't need it. So here are the 6 roles to mastering the business of you. Think of this as like a business plan. Imagine if you had a business idea and you need to know who to hire to make this a really effective business. And these are the roles within you that I spoke about earlier, okay? So the first role within the business of you is the observer. So the observer, as it says here, is the conscious viewer of who you are, how you're behaving, and where you're heading in life. And you can learn to master this role by practicing self-examination and becoming more connected to yourself and your lives. I can't tell you how many leaders I've coached and spoken to who have something what I call unconscious incompetency, which means they have no idea where they're incompetent, where they need to rise up. And there's also a level of unconscious competency where they're so good at certain things, and maybe they always have been, but they're unaware of the fact that they're good at those things or why they're good at those things, so they can't leverage them to become better because they're so focused in that future room the whole time. What do I need to do next? What do I need to do next? They're not aware of the systems that have got them there and the other systems that are holding them back. So step 1 of any personal development is awareness, complete awareness. So you also, well, why don't some people have complete awareness? And the honest answer to that is a lot of people aren't willing to look, because quite a lot of us are hard on ourselves. So why are we going to look at what we're not good at? Why are we going to look at what our shortcomings are? But unless you do that, you're not going to know what to work on to improve. Imagine, if you're a gardener in a garden, right? And you've got some weeds in the back and they're being covered by a beautiful rose bush. And you sort of think, well, I want that rose bush to be bigger, but there's those weeds there. I don't want to pull them out, because if I pull those weeds out, it's going to make the garden look messy. It's going to be muddy, and that's just going to look horrible and be really uncomfortable for a period of time. So I don't want to do it. I'm too busy. I need the results now. I'm impatient now, right? The mindset of a lot of business owners and a lot of leaders. But the truth is, until you pull out those weeds in the personal business of you case, look at those things that within you, need to be addressed and deal with the uncomfortable period of time, you're never going to move forward, and you're never going to be able to cultivate beautiful soil to be able to grow something that's going to make that garden flourish even further. And that takes the observer. That takes that role of the observer to be brave enough to look at everything and maintain that look at everything. Like in a business, there's someone in your business that's looking at how everything's working and making sure that there's nothing bleeding, that everything's profitable, that everyone's doing their job, that no one's kind of hiding under the desk or taking early lunches, right? Or showing up to work on time. Every business has an observer. So the observer within you is a really important role, okay? So one thing you can ask yourself, and this is an interactive part of this, and if anyone wants to chat in the chat box, they can. I've got a question around the observer. As I step out of the chaos of today and hover above my life, what I see myself doing that serves my health and happiness is. Think about that. And if you want to note something down, write it down. If you want to share anything, share it. I'll read it out again. As I step out of the chaos of today and hover above my life, what I see myself doing that serves my health and happiness is. So what are you doing right now that is serving your health and your happiness? Write it down. If you want to share it in the chat box. The second question here on the flip side is what I notice myself doing that is not serving me is. Write it down. And if you're brave enough, share it in the chat box. Quite often here I get, while I sit on my laptop in bed, answering emails just before I go to sleep and I can't sleep properly. Or I'm snappy when I get home to my partner because I've had a bad day and he or she is angry at me. Or I'm really not working out as much as I should be because I'm not making the time to do so. Or I'm eating junk food for lunch because I'm not making time to make great food choices and it's costing me. So Rick has written, I'm giving back to a veterans organization, nonprofit, which makes me feel good, but also helping our veterans find resources. That's fantastic. I love that, Rick. Fantastic. Right. So what Rick's sharing is he's giving back, which makes him feel good. Right. So that's an act which makes you feel good because you're doing something of service, which is fantastic. So on the flip side, Rick, I wonder what you're doing that's not serving you. So let's move on from here. If anyone's got any more questions, we're going to do a bit of Q&A at the end anyway. Okay. So the next role within the business of you is the director. Now the director directs your life, right? A bit like in a movie set, directs your life, directs your character. So what your attitude's like, how you're showing up, directs the action in the next scene. So thinking about who have I got to be when I show up to work today, to that meeting today, at home today, who comes into your life, right? So am I conscious of the relationships, right? Or have I got people in there that are not serving me? And the emotional color of each scene. Again, it's being considerate of how am I showing up? I mean, anyone here that's hired people for roles will know that attitude and character and integrity are really important. And you think about that when you're hiring other people. So are you thinking about that with yourself? Do you actually consider before going into a meeting room, how am I going to choose to show up as the best version of me to get the result out of this meeting that I desire to get? Or when I'm driving home from work, let's say I've got a partner who's at home, are you considering how am I going to choose to show up when I walk through that door so not to take the stresses of my work with me? Because I don't know what day that person's had, he or she. So the director is really important. The director is a conscious effort in showing up and behaving in a certain way, right? And there's, being tired, being in a bad mood doesn't mean you don't have the ability to consciously show up as the best version of yourself. And the practice of that makes perfect. So here's some questions around that. If I step back and notice how I've been directing my own movie, I notice that sometimes I forget to fill in the blank. If I step back and notice how I've been directing my own movie, I notice that sometimes I forget to fill in the blank. What would you write there? And this is where maybe we're being a bit unconscious. We're just kind of in the rat race. We're not really thinking about it. We may react to a situation and then immediately think, oh, probably shouldn't have said that. Or maybe recently things have been busy and you've allowed some qualities that aren't the best of you, a low integrity side, to show up. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but be honest with yourself. You step back and just think about the last few weeks. How have you been showing up in different situations? And, is there any areas where you're being a bit unconscious and you're forgetting to show up in a certain way that would benefit you and the way that the business of you is performing? Lee's written, I forget to give myself time for enrichment to rebuild. That's great. Yeah. And I love the language there, Lee. I forget to give myself time because you're in control, right? We are all in control of our own time. There's no such thing as I don't have time. There's I don't make time. I haven't set up systems to make the time, right? Everyone has the same number of hours in a day, including those that we know. We all know people that do 10 times the amount that we do and they manage. Andrew, I forget my hourly mental health breaks. Fantastic. Awareness, so important, right? So now there's something you can do with that. So the next question here on the director is, if my movie was going to be one of my favorite films ever, I'd want my character to do this next. Answer that question. This is a great one. If my movie was going to be one of my favorite films ever, I'd want my character to do this next. I want my character to, in my calendar, with an alarm, schedule my hourly mental health breaks. Because I know that after those breaks, that following hour is going to get me 10x, right? That guy, that girl, that woman that is going to show up the best version because I just spent 10 minutes recharging. Let's move on. So the next role within the business of you, Lisa, I'm with you. Awesome hike. Fantastic. Is the guardian. So the guardian is the guardian to our mind and our body and our soul. It's time we protect our health by paying more attention to what we're putting in our mouths, to the people we're letting in our lives, and what we let into our mind, right? Especially right now in the last 2 years, you've got to be really conscious of what you're watching and what you're reading, because there's a lot of energy around the world right now that can really affect how you're showing up, right? We've got to be really conscious of that. And the guardian is, again, it's a conscious action of us choosing when I'm going to read the news, right? Choosing when I'm going to speak to that person, who I'm going to allow into my day to day, how I'm going to make time to put good food in my mouth, right? What I'm going to be doing to treat my body, because you remember your body is the only home you have to live in, right? If you're not looking after this, then it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, how much money you've got to invest in great programs or great strategies or great team. If this falls apart, it's a moot point. And of course, your mind, really important, because this thing up here drives everything. This is the decision maker. This decides how you react, how you respond. This decides who you speak to, how you speak to them, the decisions you make. And we all know the importance of decisions. And I guess we've all had times where in a moment of weakness, in a moment of fatigue or low energy, we've made some decisions that, if we're honest, we wish we hadn't made. Or maybe we didn't make a decision that we really wish we should have made. So the guardian is there to make sure that what goes in is fueling us and what goes out is going to give us ROI. Again, this is all conscious effort, okay? So let me ask you some questions around this that will support you. So too often I don't guard my time and energy well, so I end up. Fill out that question. Too often I don't guard my time and energy well, so I end up. So for example, Lee, when you forget to give yourself that time to rebuild, or when you don't, Andrew, when you don't give yourself those mental health breaks, what happens? Too often I don't guard my time and energy well, so I end up what? Think about that one. So what have we got here? Unenergized. I end up adding too many internal calls to my calendar, which doesn't allow me to complete my own work. Yeah, that's a big one, right? Putting other people's agendas ahead of our own and then getting resentful because everyone's on my calendar, right? But if you think about what resentment really is, resentment is really you angry at yourself for not saying no or making the time to do the work because you're in control, right? Lisa, feeling sluggish and not as focused, are really important. You know, it's very easy to just just say, oh, I'm just going to go another hour, just go another, push, push, push. But if we could measure, if I gave you this, see, this is an Oura ring. If we could measure what your body's doing throughout the day and your dip in energy and performance, and I could show that to you, you'd be shocked at how much you're trying to do with an empty gas tank, and how much easier it would be if you were adding these small sections of time and owning your time in order to perform better. The next question around Guardian is, the people or things I need to start keeping out of my life are. Be interested to know what some of you put here. The people or things I need to keep out of my life because they're not doing me any good. They're making it harder for me to show up at my best. They're toxic. McDonald's, McGriddle. Yes, definitely. Yeah, fast food's not gonna, that's like putting moonshine in your Ferrari. It's not gonna work. You know, it's really not. Your inner Ferrari deserves better, okay? It's easy and convenient and cheap, yes, but does easy, convenient, and cheap represent the goals that you're aiming for? When you get to your final days and you look back at your life, are you going to go, oh, well, my life was easy, convenient, and cheap, and it's the end of my life and I'm only 60, but hey, I kept it convenient and cheap and comfortable. I don't think that's what we want, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next role. The warrior, one of my favorite roles, right? The warrior, as the warrior, we must be bold, fierce, and unrelenting in chasing our dreams. If we have real dreams, then we must fight for them. We must give our life to something that matters. And of course, the warrior needs those other roles, because I'm sure all of you knows what it is to be the warrior, but without the guardian to making sure that we're not burning out, and the observer to making sure we're doing it all effectively and efficiently, then the warrior is going to burn out. But the warrior is a really important role, but the warrior needs energy. The warrior also needs courage. It's very easy to get comfortable. And that's that time when we've got to a point, we've worked really hard, now we're kind of settled a little bit and it's a bit frustrating. We're not where we want to be. We start blaming everyone or things not working, but actually it's because we've maybe lost some of that inner warrior that got us started. So here's some questions for you around this. The thing I feel I must start fighting harder for is, now remember, this doesn't have to be just work. Is there a relationship that, if you're honest, you need to start fighting harder for? Is there a role in your life that you feel you must start working harder for? Is there something in your life, like your fitness or your health, that you feel like I must, there's a goal I've had for a long time, I need to fight for it? And the only reason we fight for something is because it's not easy, right? But if it's not easy, it's probably worth it. Because anytime you've ever achieved anything that you've been proud of, you've worked for it, right? The warriors come out. It's been hard, right? Human beings are adaptation masters. We achieve and we grow through adversity. When something's hard, on the flip side of that, there's a great reward at the end. So if I'm down the gym and I'm working out, it's hard. And the harder I make it for myself, the more opportunity for my body to be stronger or fitter. It's the law of polarity, right? The more I put in, the more I can potentially get back out. Fitness, time, people who want meetings about things that aren't priorities, right? But Andrew, you don't have to say yes to that. Or if you're being invited to those meetings and it's not important, then maybe there's the warrior shows up and gives his honest opinion. How can I be involved in making these meetings more effective for our team? Because at the moment, I feel like they're not. Sometimes we've got to be brave enough to have that conversation. Okay, so let's move on to the next question around warrior. If I was an even more courageous person, the thing I would ask for or try and achieve is, so right now, imagine if your inner warrior was, I don't know, 3 times more courageous and powerful than he or she is right now. Right? If you're more courageous and you just like, you had the Rocky Balboa inside of you right now, what would you try and achieve or what would you ask for? more effective meetings, right? What would you ask for? Do you ask for to train like others and get paid better? Yeah. Fantastic. Around fitness, I'd ask for the best fitness coach out there, realize it's going to be an investment, and do it because I want to be fit and strong and last and live a very long time and earn lots of money and be able to wear my tight t-shirt in the summer. I don't know, whatever it is. Okay. What is it that you want to fight for? Okay, let's move on to the next role. The lover. A role that we don't think of very often, right? The lover is very important. Not only the lover internally, but the lover externally, right? Lovers are great at shining attention and adoration on others, demonstrated even more with more affection and appreciation for others. So it's really, this is a relationship thing, right? It's a connection building thing. It's what Ryan was saying earlier. Love is and it's very important for a community like this. You are all networking and sharing, and the love is just you showing admiration and respect, like I am, for all of you taking time out of your days to be here, to learn, to share, to support each other. Is really important, because what Ryan's trying to do is reflect the importance of community and networking here. And he's spot on. When those are deep relationships that you've spent, rather spending time on Google Ads to promote a business idea, spend time building relationships in a mastermind like this, or wherever. Spend time building relationships, because that shining of attention and adoration on others gets reflected back, and it's something the world needs a lot of right now. Okay, and it works within the business of you, and it's circular. You shine love and admiration and respect for yourself. Right, I'm grateful for the effort I put in today, because it wasn't easy. Me reflecting that gratitude for myself gives me the opportunity to stack my confidence shelf, because I'm recognizing my competence, and that's a loop. Confidence, competence, confidence, competence is a loop. The more I recognize what I'm doing in myself, the more confident I get. The more I recognize what other people are doing, the more confident they get, and the more we network and connect together, right? It's a really important role. And it's the role that, as with the next one, really shines outwardly, okay? So let's ask these questions. The person or persons who need more of my positive energy and cheerleading in their lives right now is, who needs you at your best right now, and who needs positive energy and cheerleading? Because I'd imagine that there's something different about everyone on this call. And there are people in your lives that haven't made the time or got the energy or the courage to join a community like this. And therefore, it's your opportunity to be an example to them and cheerlead them and be a shining light of positivity for them, so they can step up. So who is that for you? My youngest son. Right. So Andrew, that's such a great answer, because guess what? Your son is watching you and the way you're showing up for yourself. And he's saying, oh, that's how I show up for myself. Great. I'm going to do what daddy does. I'm going to show up for myself the same way daddy does. If daddy's not working out, oh, I'm not going to work out. Daddy's not eating well, oh, I'm not going to eat well, because that's what daddy's doing, right? I know that hits hard sometimes, but it's true, right? That's the most important relationship of influence that you could ever have, is with your children. And they're watching. And I know it feels like a lot of pressure, but the best thing about paying attention to yourself is, guess what? It's not only your son that benefits, you benefit too. You have more energy. You have more influence. And eventually then you make more money, and then you can buy your son whatever he wants, right? Amazing. I'm so glad people put their kids here. It's really important to me as well. Okay. The last question around lover is, sometimes I hold back from sharing my real heart and feelings with others when. This goes to the guys especially, right? Guess what, guys? It's very strong and powerful to be vulnerable. I don't care what you were taught. Sharing your truth takes a lot of courage, and takes a real man to do so, okay? So sometimes I hold back from sharing my real heart and feelings with others when. That'd be a really good one for you to be honest, at least to yourself about. Because guess what? You deserve to be heard as well. And you've got to hear yourself before you expect others to be able to hear you, right? Be honest with yourself. This is when earlier I talked about unconscious incompetencies. This falls in that bracket. Where am I putting on a mask of everything's okay to pretend everything's okay when actually I need to share something, right? Because you can't run an effective business of you if there's toxic, unshared negativity within you that hasn't been released. It won't work. It's like having, you know, a sales department with phones that don't work, but they're shy of going to the boss and telling them to buy them new phones because they're scared of the boss. You know, at some point, someone's got to go and say that, otherwise they're not going to make any sales. Okay. When things aren't going as well as they could, you don't share. Great. So Andrew, it's, you know, this is important, and we can have that discussion. We can do that in the Q&A. Like, why? I mean, why, when things are hard, is it hard for you to share? Like, really think about that. Why is it hard to share? What is there a fear of repercussion, a fear of how you might come across? You know, I always share this. The interesting thing about the world right now is there's a lot of negativity around. And I want to share with you my perspective on control. And that is that you aren't in control. And there's one thing that you have control of, that I believe, one thing. And that is your response. And that is it. You can't control your reactions. You can't control anything in the world outside of you. You can influence, sure, you can't control. But you can control your response, right? It's what I call your response ability. Response-ability. Your ability to respond, which comes after reaction, right? React, bad version of me coming out. Response is my conscious effort using those roles to say, okay, how would the best version of me respond at this point? We've all been in that tipping point of an argument where you're triggered and you know you could go one way or another. You could go all out attack, or you could take a breath and say, okay, how would the best version of me respond in this situation in order to positively aim to get the outcome that I know would be beneficial for us all? And that takes a lot of strength. And guess what? It takes a lot of energy, and it takes a high performer, hence why a lot of people react and not respond, okay? So that leads us to our final role, and a very important role to me, something that, you know, I teach and I work with a lot of leaders. And of course, one thing that a real leader knows is that you can only lead people as far and effective as you can lead yourself, which is why the final role within the business of you is the leader. The great work of uplifting humankind, improving the world we influence, helping others to solve problems and achieve their dreams, we must remember our duty to serve something larger than ourselves. The call for leadership is all around, and that's so true right now, right? And it's particularly true within you. The leader is the person that feels worthy of embodying all these other roles. Because remember, a leader is not a dictator, and I think a lot of businesses have forgotten that. A leader doesn't dictate. A leader shows the way, role models the way, is inspiring people to be better, not dictating at them to be better by fear. Because quite often, how many people here beat themselves up when they've made a mistake and say, if you don't do this better, you're going to fail. If you don't do this, you're going to get fired. If you don't do this, she or he's going to leave you. If you don't do this, you're going to get fat. If you don't do this, and you speak to yourself in that bullying language, that is dictatorship. They're the bosses we don't like at work, right? The leader is the, I know and believe that you can do better. And I'm going to support you in getting there. Imagine if that's how you spoke to yourself. I know and believe you can do better. I'm not going to attack you for making that mistake because it's made now. I know and believe you can do better. And here's how we're going to do it. The leader is a very important role, okay? And if you're a great leader for yourself, your ability to lead others is going to be 10x. Because that boss that you've all worked for at some point in your life that just attacks people and is blamey and blames everything on everyone but himself and is horrible to work for, that person is unhappy. And that person is like that to themselves. So if you don't want to be that person for your kids or for those that you lead at work, then start paying attention to how you lead yourself. And that inner voice, it's called Conscious Language. It's a great book called Conscious Language, The Logos of Now. It's an old book. Really teaches us that the way that you speak to yourself, whether it's subconsciously or verbally, we remember that stuff, which is why when you ask yourself a question about your ability to do something, the answer comes from your subconscious. It comes from whatever you've been telling yourself. So start leading yourself to be better and not dictating at yourself to do better, right? So here's some questions around that to frame it. And then we're going to go into a little bit of Q&A. If we have time, Ryan, I hope I've not taken up too much time for you. So if I was suddenly granted more power in my career or life, the first thing I would do with that power is help others too. So I know we had someone earlier who does a lot for veterans, right? So maybe there's an answer there, right? If I was suddenly granted more power in my career or life, the first thing I would do with that power is help others too. The next question here is the qualities I want to demonstrate as a leader going forward in my life are. And I shared some of them earlier. What are some of the qualities that you want to demonstrate as a leader? Great. Integrity. With it, Andrew, I'm so glad you brought up integrity because my final closing statement here, right? All of this stuff, obviously, from the business of you perspective and the idea of SOPs, habitual behavior, you know, you might be saying, oh, I'm no good at sticking to habits, James, right? I tried to do this thing. I tried to put it in my diary. I always go against it. I might make that New Year's resolution, but I always fall back. I can't commit to these new practices of personal development. Let me let you into a little secret. Habits and you know, let's say you're trying to develop a new habit of fitness, for example, it's actually less about habits, truth be told, and it's more about integrity and congruency. Because if you understood who you were out of integrity daily, who am I when I'm in integrity and I'm being congruent with the best person of me because I'm leading myself that way, that person doesn't allow themselves not to go to the gym that day, even if they're feeling lazy. That person doesn't allow themselves not to make time for their kids. That person doesn't allow themselves not to show up at their best in the meeting because their integrity is so high that even when they're feeling bad, they have what we call in high performance a level of necessity, which is why I wake up understanding why it's necessary to perform today, not whether I can be bothered to or not. And that attitude developed over time will help create the habit, which then creates the consistency and the momentum. I hope this has been of service for you all. If you have any questions, Ryan, I don't know if we've got much time for questions, but if you have some questions, let me know. Ryan, let me know if we have time. And I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, I would just say that fantastic presentation, James. I really, really appreciate it. What kind of questions do you guys have? You're welcome to either unmute yourself and chime in, or you can type it in the chat window. While they're thinking about that, James, if you do us a favor, I know that they've got your email. Maybe give us a little bit of idea or some ideas about how they can best connect with you and what type of things, if they are looking for coaching, you know, in that high performance world, what that might look like with you and how that works.
Of course, yeah. So like I said, just if you just want to have a conversation and learn a lot more, let's just book a call. So just email me at The Growth Edge, james@thegrowthedge.com. Typically how this works is I have a very strategic and methodical way to do this. This isn't life coaching, right? This is kind of like building a business within yourself. That's how it's formulated. And so the way this normally starts is I send out a questionnaire, which you fill out a lot of information around you, how you're performing, what your dreams are, where you're being held back. We have a strategy call, which, you know, really is kind of like an idea of a value call that's just pure strategy. It's a commitment of $97 just so you commit to the call, because I've had so many people that don't show up. That call is then standalone. It's a great strategy call. There's coaching involved. And if nothing happens after that, you've got a really great strategy. That's also to figure out whether it's a good fit or not. But ultimately, how this works long term is that, out of those 4 modalities that I teach, we figure out where you're at, where you want to go, whether it be you or you and your team, because I do team stuff as well. And then it's a very methodical process with worksheets and integration sheets and hour-long coaching sessions over 4 months to a year, where we reach a goal of high performance, which ultimately reaches the goal of higher income or better relationships or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, or all of the above. And it's very methodical. I truly believe that you need a goal. You need mile markers to reach those goals so we can actually measure success. I'm a really big fan of measuring success so that therefore the progress is tangible and viewable. And that's how it works. But, just email me if you want to get on a call and have a quick chat for free, just a normal connection call. If you want a strategy session, we can do that, but just email me and I can send you any links you want. Also, I've just put a web link in there, some free downloads. There's some podcasts I've been on, a couple of cool downloads and some information if you want to jump on there. There's a great meditation practice that I developed myself called Master Your Busy Mind, which you can download for free. It's a very simple practice of just learning to be present. You can get that on the free downloads. And yeah, any questions, just email me. I love talking to people. So just let me know what you want to do. And
awesome. So great. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew, did you have a question you wanted to ask James today?
I was going to add something. I guess it was a question. It's really weird because I've actually taught people what are you talking about today? Not all of it. There's some really good new twists in there. But I'm involved in a startup that is starting slowly. And I've forgotten some of these things myself. And so we have to keep remembering it as well.
Yeah.
It's like a business plan to keep in front of us. So it's like I said, you're preaching to the choir, but I'd forgotten so much of it, just slipped by the way.
Yeah. Do you know what, Andrew? We are our number one clients. I am my number one client. And I've realized a long time ago that is a contract for life. And if I'm going to treat myself like I treat an external client, then I've got to pay that guy attention every day. Right. Yeah. And the moment I let go of that, I go against that contract, my actual outside clients are going to suffer. So, that's why I have a coach, because, I take this very, very seriously. And the way the education system works in the UK and maybe here in America is it's a memory test, not an integration test. And so a lot of people know a lot of things and read a lot of books, but that doesn't mean it's integrated. And integration means I'm living it and breathing it every day. I don't just do it for a couple of weeks and think, oh, I know it now, and I'm now this high performer. And so I still remind myself, I'm quite often on a call with clients or with people, and I'm hearing myself say something, and I'm like, yeah, James, you actually need to step up there a little bit, right? So it's really important, Andrew. So I'm glad to hear you say that. And I think you're a human being like all of us. We're not meant to be perfect. We're just meant to be intentional.
Yeah. And I think this whole Zoom thing where we can be at home and let's just turn up for meetings, kind of, 50%. I'm on the meeting. And one of the things I got, not to take too much time, but was to, even if it's a Zoom meeting every Monday, be actively prepared for it and participate and control to some degree that meeting, rather than just being another Zoom head.
Totally. Just because I'm definitely a fan of being in person, but just because it's on Zoom doesn't mean we should show up any differently.
Yeah.
Than we were in person, right? I've worn a shirt to every Zoom meeting for the last 2 years. Right? Sure, I may not be wearing trousers right now. Don't tell anyone, that's my secret. I worked in TV for 12 years. I know how TV presenters dress. They're the same. Trackies, it's fine.
Well, it's so good spending time with you today, James. I'm very appreciative of the time and energy that you have taken with us. It's fascinating to me, right? As I learn more and more about this dynamic of high performance and really taking a step back. And I think this is what you did with us today, is you kind of asked those questions that we may not have asked ourselves in the last 30, 60, 90 days, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, 5 years, which really gives a lot of context to who we can become. And it helps us drive a little deeper into what we should change, what we should get rid of, or what things should we continue to expound upon so that we can get to the best version of ourselves. And like you said, you know, one of the most powerful things for me in my life is the opportunity to stay in that element of personal development, because as I continue to develop, I just am that much more prepared and able to show up for those people that mean the most in my life. And so I love the things that you've shared with us. And I really appreciate, you know, the six different characteristics, or the six different people that we should be. And man, I took notes. I took copious notes. I have a whole stack of notes over here that I've been taking. So I really appreciate your time and energy. And for those of you that are with us still, like, connect with this man. He's a tremendous leader. He's a tremendous coach. You can tell just by the short 45 minutes, the hour that we spent together today, that he can bring a lot of value into your life. And so I highly recommend that. And if you need to reach out to me, because you have my connection or my emails that you're receiving on behalf of me, I'll make sure to get back that back to you. We did record this, so we will get a chance to upload this into YouTube or somewhere so that you can go back and rewatch and listen to all the things that James shared with us. I just want to take one quick minute and just give you kind of an idea of what we do here. We have all of these mastermind events, virtual events, annual conferences. They're all part of our VIP membership. And if you want to be a part of it, if you're a little interested in what this Rise community is and how it works and how we can help support you and connect you with people all across the country, just reach out to me. We really try to give back to the community, to build a community of people that are constantly creating impact on people, organizations, and communities. So extremely grateful for each and every one of you spending time with us today. We try to stay to that hour, a minute over. So I want to just thank you for your time. And James, again, my friend, thanks for being with us. And thanks to each of you for spending the time with us. James, you have one last thought that you want to share with the community before we head out for the day?
I would just say, you know, that I know for a fact that everyone, including myself, has the potential to 10x everything, their energy, you know, their goal setting, everything. I know that my life is completely different to what it was 10 years ago. It just takes some curiosity. Ultimately, be brave enough to be curious and not judgmental around yourself, what you want, what you're dealing with, and have the conversation. And I'm just so grateful to have been able to share and meet you all. And I hope to see you and speak to some of you again.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for being with us. It's good to have you with us. Bye for now.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Ryan. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Cigarettes, running from the law through the backfields and getting drunk with my friends. Had my first kiss on a Friday night. I don't reckon that I did it